Welcome to Doom Scroll Patrol, the show where we go through the worst news and try to make some sense of it, while at the same time, maybe just make ourselves feel a little bit better about it at the same time, because the world is dark and full of terrors, but we're here to help you through it. I'm Aaron Heggie McKay.
I'm Hannah Snape.
I'm Sam Perez.
I'm Harold Moss. I'm Harold Moss. Today we are going to talk about, well, obviously, Donald Trump is back in the White House. He has signed a whole bunch of new laws, new executive orders, and he's made America great again? Question mark. We'll also talk about.
Did.
Oh, he so did. We'll also talk about the Zeke Heil heard around the world, and maybe even a little bit of good news. So stick around. It's gonna be a wild ride.
You have 5 minutes till showtime.
Just checking in. We're at a fucking moment in history right now, and how's everybody feeling?
I will say, like many people, living through historical moments fucking sucks.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to.
I would like to be atemporal and just sort of exist in a fourth dimension in which I can comprehend all of time and space at once and realize that the meaning of it all is just nothingness. But I don't have that. I have attachments.
Am I human?
My father-in-law was trying to sell me on this idea of the pendulum swing. It's like, don't worry. The pendulum always swings back and forth or whatever. You think about Reagan, it was to the right. And then you think about afterwards with Clinton. I mean, you had to skip over George H.W. Bush. And then you had Clinton, and then you had George W. Bush, and then you had Obama. And then now you got this fucking guy, and then, Biden, and then this fucking guy. And I'm just like, man, you're not helping, because it
just gets worse.
Pendulum swings, it brings the entire rest of the world further and further to a crazy sort of reactionary right that is not conservative by any. It's not conserving anything. It's actually just tearing everything down and trying to build something monstrous in its place. So, it gave me no comfort.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of how people use light and dark to describe, the different happenings of life, and how it's also a pendulum that swings back and forth, but the brighter the light gets, the darker the shadows get. So it's
the moral arc of the universe. This is not a nihilistic podcast. I would say that in learning about these and actually staying on top of it, it is optimistic, because at least we feel like we can know about it and maybe do something about it and help each other. Here. So I don't want everyone to think that this is a bunch of people be like, oh, we're all screwed, man. And we're not doomers, right?
And we are
not a doomer podcast.
Best definition of optimism, and you've all probably heard me say this before, that I've heard is that optimism is an ethical choice. It's an ethical framework. It's not just Pollyanna, everything's going to be great, we're in the best of all possible worlds. It's that choosing optimism over despair means you create the possibility that change can happen. That as soon as you give into despair, you've basically surrendered. And we're seeing all sorts of surrender right now. You're seeing as people talk about pre-obeying to authoritarianism and fascism, where all the media, Politico saying, you can't argue it, Donald Trump is a great president, a literal headline in Politico, right? Yeah, exactly. Of course you can argue it. So there's pre-obeying, but I think pre-despairing is also part of that. On the flip side, it sucks and it hurts and it's terrifying and awful things are going to happen. So I'm grappling with this, which is I'm normally indefatigable Harold, right? Let's go. What do we do? It's yes, bad things are happening. What do we do? But also kind of recognizing that there's definitely a, despair in my belly, even while I'm okay, what do we do? And somehow that's what being in this moment and being an activist and trying to have a difference is being able to experience the pain and the despair and digest it and fucking move forward.
Hi, you hungry?
Well, I think too, one of the things, especially in Western civilization, we're so prone to not feeling bad, or we don't want to feel bad, which is human nature. You don't want to feel scared or bad and all that stuff. But I think the other part to that is like, it's okay to feel that stuff. Like right now, like I feel scared, especially because I think it was just this morning. So I'm Navajo, Native American. The president of my nation, Boo Nygren, released like a statement basically saying, for all off-reservation natives, like, here's what to do if ICE harasses you. Like, and like, I'm Native American, man. Like, where are you gonna fucking deport me to? Like, down the street, you fucking idiots. But it's like, that's part of it, is like, it's okay to feel that fear, and it's okay to like be scared or be angry. Like, part of the work of like emotional regulation is to like let these feelings wash over you, feel them, cry, be angry, all that, and then let them go. And then you're able to, I guess, like start doing whatever the work is that helps you, whether it's volunteering or being, you know, there for your family or whatever it may be. I think that's the other part of it, is like, it's okay to feel these things, and it's okay to talk about these things. And it's not a sign of weakness to be like, well, this makes me scared. Because like I said, right now, like I'm scared for me and my kid. Speaking of children, like, you know, it's almost like, are we going to get harassed here? Like, am I going to have some fucking ICE agent walk up to me and ask me where I'm from and who, blah, blah, blah. Like, it really fucking sucks. And it is scary because like, it shouldn't happen, but you know, you just
and I think like a regulation of our mental well-being is super important, and to recognize that when you are in those places that it's just very dark and deep and there's just too much happening, don't give in to just, I mean, that's where doom scrolling comes from, where we just, the darkness is there, so I'm just going to consume more of it. But good doom scrolling etiquette is you have to know when you have the capacity to engage and to, you know, process stuff. And if you don't, then just focus on surviving, you know?
Yeah, that's why I only doom scroll when I'm on walks on sunny days now. Because like, I don't doom scroll in the dark in my bed.
That's just
anymore.
that for
I'm like,
porn.
I'll go for a walk, and it's nice and sunny.
I touch grass while I doom scroll.
Yeah, and you know, it's nice and sunny because of the fucking climate crisis.
Everything is great.
So obviously this week, the United States of, I believe it's America now, still currently, is now has a new president. And it is Donald J. Trump again. And you know what? For someone who looks extraordinarily lazy, he got a lot done on the first day. And he signed a whole bunch of executive actions, did some pardoning, but we're going to get to that. Let's talk about the inauguration itself. Did you all watch it?
I love myself. I may not love myself that much, but I love myself more than that.
No, that's why I tune into things like Doom Scroll Patrol, so I don't have to watch it.
I wait for other people to tell me what happened.
Speech articulation involves complex and rapid movements of many structures.
President Elon Musk, co-president Elon Musk, gave a lovely thank you speech. You obviously have heard about this, but just to set it up again, in case you've been living under a rock, Elon Musk wanted to thank his supporters for making this happen. And to do that, he put it was what the media was calling a very odd hand gesture, which was clearly just a Zeke Heil. Everyone saw it and knew immediately what it was. And then he turned around and did it again. This was just obviously
just in case
Zeke
there's any
Heil.
ambiguity. First of all the white nationalists and Nazis celebrated it because they recognized it was for them. Weeks earlier, Musk had endorsed the neo-Nazis in Germany, quite literally. They're now trotting out that he went to Auschwitz. The reason he went to Auschwitz, it was an apology tour for having boosted anti-Semitic Nazi conspiracy theories on X. So the reason he went to Auschwitz was because he was signal boosting Nazis denying the Holocaust. So there's really no ambiguity.
But wait, he went with Ben Shapiro.
There is a weird kind of like, how does this happen? And this happened with Trump, where like the neo-Nazis are for him, and like the Benjamin Netanyahu's are for him. Like they're some strange bedfellows.
But it's actually not that
I
strange
don't know.
because
Someone needs to explain this
Israel's
to me.
courted, the Christian right here are the biggest supporters in the U.S. are the biggest supporters of Israel. And to them, it's because they need Israel to get some red cows and other nonsense to eventually bring back Jesus, at which point the Jews either convert or get sent to hell. So like Israel is built on strange bedfellows.
Oh, so this is apocalyptic. They are.
Oh yeah, some of them are
literally
like
trying to make the
breeding
apocalypse
red
happen.
cows.
Yeah.
Oh, they are
literally
they are
trying to make
literally
the apocalypse.
breeding red cows.
So they're supporting it because
we
they
got the
want
tech-
the apocalypse.
Yeah, because
what-
like in the Bible, it'll be like, there will be this disturbance in the Middle East that will unite all the nations, and like when all of us are at war and it's really, really bad, that's when Jesus Christ will come
So they want
back
the war.
and save everyone. Like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tip it to start essentially World War III in the hopes Jesus Christ comes
So
back. And then
in that
saves
context,
us all.
Elon Musk is kind of a logical ally, right? Bring around World War III, sure.
So I guess in all of those things to like make World War III happen, there's a whole bunch of executive orders, and there are some bangers in this one. None of these should be, how should I say? All of these are disquieting, to say the least. So just a select list of them, granting top security clearances without going through traditional vetting processes. Basically, making sure. It's just a way to make sure you have spies amongst your midst or people who are just not qualified amongst your midst. Move to end birthright citizenship, which is just literally unconstitutional against the 14th Amendment. The U.S.-Mexico border is now a national emergency, unlocking federal funding to make a border wall happen. And there's been maybe there's going to be troops sent into Mexico to fight cartels. Well, and for the future of Earth, fuck you, future of Earth. The U.S. is out of the Paris Agreement, so it is the biggest economy in the world and is no longer going to do anything to help fight climate change. It has also gotten rid of. They've also gotten rid of EV charging infrastructure. They've declared a national energy emergency, which, let's be honest, the U.S. is not in any energy emergency. They are pumping more oil and gas than literally any other nation that has ever existed. But a part of this energy emergency, they've defined out wind and solar as energy sources. They just don't exist anymore in this energy emergency. Everything else is fine. Coal, nuclear, wind and solar.
And that's what the oil industry paid him. That's what they paid him
meanwhile,
for. He said, "Give me money, and you will get everything on your wish list."
That was the return on investment, the $1 billion that he quartered from them, and 4 million barrels of oil a day from Canada might get a tariff on it. It's not clear on that, but if that happens, you're gonna have expensive gas prices. So you're welcome.
Oh, sorry.
I just love how people are trying to buy raw milk with bird flu in it to try to get their bird flu immunity up, and it's just good God,
these are the people that during the plague would just be
fucking die.
sticking a straw into the bubonic plague pustules and taking a deep sip in order to get their natural immunity up. I mean, that's basically the level of thought that goes into that.
And of course, the most important is they're renaming Mount Denali to Mount McKinley and the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of
America.
Oh,
hell
fuck
yeah.
America.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
It's so rad. I just have patriotism flowing through me, blasting out my nips.
God.
I'm so excited.
I'm an American citizen, and I love my country.
So here's a fun one as well. They also try to define gender. And it turns out when you try to do that, you kind of run into some weird things. So they did this weird thing where, so the White House, female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. And male means a person belonging to, at conception, the sex that produces the small reproductive cell.
At
But
birth,
turns out, because of stupid fucking science, at conception, every human
right.
fetus
it's
is
it's
female.
ambiguous to start with.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how
So,
biology
but it is
works.
also they are trying to slip in fetal personhood, which
So-
would make all abortion murder. Right. That's the other little side door shenanigan involved in that one.
Can fetuses be murderers though too? Because that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and we got to send them to prison,
Yes.
Hannah, to fight the fires.
But it kind of makes sense. Like, this fetus
Right.
killed its mother. Let's put it in jail and make it fight fires by tossing it into a fire.
I
This
will
is
build
fucked
my
up,
fetal
guys.
army. I shall conquer
I
you
wouldn't be
all.
surprised. Hey, get me out of here! It's all good. All of this is good.
But wait, there's more. Because on top of having oligarchs run everything and using the force of the United States government to enrich the people who are, I guess attended. I suppose that's another thing we could talk about is all of the billionaires that were in the inauguration. Like the net wealth, the net worth of that inauguration was probably more than Canada. I don't know, like the GDP of Canada. There's like $1 trillion in that room. On top of all of that, the Trump administration released all of the J6ers, all of those January 6 people who either pled guilty or were convicted otherwise of plotting insurrection, are now set free, including Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys and Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers, both of whom have vowed revenge. So get ready for some state-sanctioned terrorism, America.
He's literally set up his
brown
brown
shirts. Going to get revenge, and
Yep,
maybe the
that's-
state will look the other way.
That was clearly the message, which is when Trump wants armed thugs, he's got them, stand back and stand by.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have your own brown shirts
Yay.
now.
A small upside is that most of the promises Trump made throughout his campaign, he's like, on day one, on my first day of office, I'm going to do all these things. There's so many clips of him saying that, and almost all of them didn't go through.
Except for the
Except
things that
for
are going to
these
benefit the
few,
oligarchs.
yeah.
Those are and the racism. He always follows through on his racism, and he always follows through on his gifts to the wealthy.
First of all, Hannah, excellent Trump impression. I just want to congratulate you on that.
I've been working on it.
I think
I'm just
you've been
kidding, I
doing a
haven't.
great job. I could
Okay.
not tell the difference at all.
I thought Trump was here.
I thought he was
I am
just.
Trump.
I was like, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I guess, would be more than Mr. President.
Mr. Presidency, Kyle.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Mario, why are you like this?
Like, one of the things that I think was an incredible act of actual solidarity is when there were some left-wing armed groups that would defend, like, Drag Time Story Hour when the Nazis would show up with guns. And when we start looking at solidarity over the next 4 years, there's going to be, particularly when you look at acts of self-defense like that, when they're going to come out, we've got to figure out ways to show up for the most vulnerable people, because this is what they do, right? And they've now been given a green light. I'm trying to really hard come up with a joke on this topic.
Alabama. Everybody go to Alabama. Apparently that's the
Yeah.
easiest place to get guns.
Oh, you can get them here in Utah. We stopped.
but it's easiest.
Oh, it's easiest? Okay. Because, here you don't need a conceal and carry anymore for permits. 'Cause I used to have a conceal and carry way back in college. You have to take a class and do all that stuff. Now, apparently, you can just have them. I could just go to the store and buy like a pistol if I wanted to. Whereas before, you had to like have stuff, but now you don't. So,
Isn't that excellent freedom? It's so free. You're
I
so
mean,
free right now.
it
Look at you
is-
being free.
When you look at cops around mass shootings, they're
More
pretty
guns,
fucking
the
useless.
better.
Actually, when you look at cops around most things, they're pretty fucking useless.
Yeah, they don't do shit.
Let's be honest. Let's just
Oh, I remember. Okay, when I was running the shelter, we had a guy come
You
in.
used to run a homeless shelter for people who don't know.
Yeah, I used to run a homeless shelter. We had a guy come in. It was an active shooter. Like, he had a gun. He was stalking around the place. Like, one of my staff called the cops, and the cops just kind of moseyed on over. It ended up, he got to the door, and me and another coworker talked to the dude through the door. to try to convince him, like, hey, don't shoot us. And he was like, maybe I won't. And then he walked away. And then, and like, so it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Guns are weird for me because, like, on one hand, like, I grew up with them. They're a tool. But on the other hand, working in social work made me realize, like, oh, I don't need a gun. Like, and even as a bouncer, like, I've had guns pulled on me many, many times. And it's just like, okay, like, what are you going to do? Fucking go to jail? Okay. And no, I mean, haven't been shot yet.
Well,
So,
also,
I don't
guns
know.
are 5 times more likely to murder someone in your own household or suicide. It's either suicide, the biggest one.
Yeah.
Mistaken, you think someone's an intruder, or murder of passion. So that's why I always, you're 5 times more likely to kill someone in your household than a bad guy with a gun.
I am the bad guy.
And that's also similar. I don't know the actual numbers, but it's similar to like abuse victims and like really violent acts. What's the word?
Domestic violence.
Domestic shit. It's way more likely that you're gonna know the person who's gonna commit any violent act against you.
Stopping domestic abusers from having guns is one of the most effective forms of gun control, because big surprise, people who will beat and injure the people closest to them probably shouldn't have a gun.
When I worked in domestic violence and I would go with like to court with like clients and stuff, that was always like a lot of like the partners who beat them, especially when they were like men. A lot of times that was like what they were going to court. It wasn't that they were like, oh, I didn't hit my wife. It was like, don't take my guns away. That was like one of the main reasons they would want to go to court to fight it, was so they could continue having guns. Not that they were like guilty or like felt remorse.
There's no contrition.
Yeah, no. It's just like, yeah, I beat my wife. I beat the fuck out of her, but like, please don't take my guns away. Like,
Your Honor, I do not fight the fact that I beat the shit out of my wife, but as a constitutional American, that's a thing, right?
Yep.
I deserve these guns.
Oh yeah, no, there was a guy, I remember, he said, that was like straight up what he said, was like, it's my second.
It was me.
Right.
That was the thing.
It was actually Aaron. He was just beating the
I was
shit
in
out of his
Utah
wife.
back in the day.
Yeah, beating the hell out of his wife. No, but that was like his argument was like, it's my constitutional right to have a gun, and even though I beat the fuck out of my wife, like, you can't take that from me. Luckily, the judge did. Judge was like, all right, you don't get guns. So
yeah, we have other laws.
We have
other
less
than
and
just
less
the
of those laws.
Constitution.
yeah, so.
They're called red flag laws. Yeah,
And that's why you have more freedom. That's why it's a lovely place you have
randomly in the street.
Yeah.
Speaking of patriots, Jason Chansley, aka the QAnon shaman, aka
the dumbest motherfucker on the planet,
that weird eco-fascist dude. He is surprisingly insightful, and he's got a interview. I'm gonna do the edited TikTok clip because it sort of gets to the juice of it real fast. But let's all listen to him. He talks about how he tweeted out like, "I'm free now. I'm gonna buy a lot of motherfucking guns." And let's listen to this interview.
You wrote on X after you'd heard the news, "Thank you, President Trump. I'm going to buy some mother effing guns." Because presumably now your record has been wiped clean, you are allowed to buy guns again. Is that what you're going to do? Have you gone out and bought them already?
Oh, yeah. Well, I want you to think about something. The mockingbirds in the media and the government demonized me. They made me social pariah. They attached things like QAnon, conspiracy theorist, white supremacist, insurrectionist, racist, homophobe, terrorist. They attached all those labels to my image, and then they imprisoned me for 27 months, 10 and a half in solitary confinement. And then they released me to the public as social pariah without the ability to own a firearm. So I can never really actually bring in a gun to a gunfight. I always have to bring a knife to a gunfight. And you do realize how wrong that is, right?
Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty. So is this how we do things in England? I say, yes, you can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear.
Why did you plead guilty then?
Have you ever been in solitary confinement before?
Tell me why you pled guilty.
I'm asking you the question, dear. Have you ever been in solitary confinement? The answer is no. Have you ever had the media and the government simultaneously mischaracterizing your involvement in some sort of a politicized travesty that is being used to actually circumvent the law and certify an election that in every way, shape, and form has all the hallmarks of a regime change and corruption? I mean, you've never been in my shoes. You don't want to be in my shoes. You're too afraid to be in my shoes. That's why you're behind the camera that you're behind, and I'm behind the one that I'm behind.
And that's why I'm asking you to give me an insight into why you pleaded guilty.
I just gave it to you. But like I said, you can't see the forest for the trees, my dear.
Explain it to me. Go on.
No. I am in no way, shape, or form obligated to explain anything to you, especially now.
What do you mean, especially now? Because you're a free man and you've been part. Well, you were released a little while ago.
Not just that. I've been vindicated more than once, dear.
That's the face of a fucking theater kid.
Definitely is a theater kid.
As a theater kid myself, back in the day, I will say that this guy does exude I'm the main character energy more than anyone else I've ever seen.
I know he was working on that British accent in Solitary, that fucking idiot.
It makes a god of the spectator who becomes the person on whom the whole world converges.
There was that one lady who wrote an article where she said, I always knew the world would burn, but I didn't think it'd be by such like fucking losers. Yeah, I read that and I was like, that's like, for me, I'm like, I always knew white people would destroy the planet, but like, I don't know, in my head as a child, I always thought it'd be like Teddy Roosevelt type fuckers where they're like cowboys and I don't know, but it's like all these like just fucking dorks and
absolute
dweebs.
nerds.
Yeah,
not like fun, good nerds.
Fun, good nerds. Like just like fucking just dweebs. Like they're just such wormy little pieces of shit. And it's like you're the one who has like $80 billion and wants to like get rid of black people at Costco, you fucking idiots.
And the politicians and the judges and all that stuff, it's all going out the window.
The people who are like all in support of these guys and think they're like the bee's knees, do they just like misinterpret the cringe? Do they just like, do they have a filter on? Where
I think
just
it's
like, oh, they're just like really confident.
I think it's
how do they process?
I think they just look past it because like they have like money and power. So they're like, oh yeah, like even if he was cringe, it doesn't matter because it's like he has $20 billion. So it almost becomes like now it's not cringe because he is such a fucking alpha. When in reality, it's like, no, like these guys are all fucking dorks. Like they're just
dweebs. I forgot that we're humans.
The amount of money that these people have, like I think we're all kind of working on, maybe like 15 years ago, like $20 billion was a crazy fucking ton of money, right? Like this is an unconceivable amount of money for one person to have at their disposal. Mark Zuckerberg is on the order of like $224 billion. Elon Musk is like 400. Like we're accelerating closer and closer to having the world's first trillionaire. And there was this Oxfam study that came out just a few days ago, and saying billionaire wealth surged by $2 trillion in 2024, 3 times faster than the year before. While the number of people living in poverty has barely changed since 1990. So basically, all of the gains in the economy are just going up to these people, and we don't have to grow the economy. We just have to redistribute it much better, and that would solve literally everything. That would literally everything. It would solve pretty much all of our problems.
And I think I have the solution to your problems.
I was just going to say, I saw a video earlier about a guy who makes over $360K, which I believe is like the tax cutoff in America for...
That's anybody making more than that is about to get a tax cut from Trump. Anyone making less than that, we're going to see our taxes go up.
Yeah, well, he was saying he already got his tax cut. And
he's actually Canadian.
He was saying, I don't need this. I prefer.
That
guy.
Yeah, Simu Lee.
And I read the new administration's new tax plan, and it looks like I get a tax cut. And I guess I just wanted to say that I don't need a tax cut. I'm happy to pay taxes. I believe I should pay taxes, and I actually believe that people like me should probably pay more tax.
He saw what the plan was.
From,
He hasn't gotten
yeah.
it yet because they have to pass all the laws and stuff like that. But anyone that he saw that he would.
Yeah,
But
Kim's Conveniences.
Yeah.
He made all of his money in CBC. I don't know. I'm kidding. Obviously, he's obviously a Marvel superhero now.
Yeah.
He was being real, and it's not always been real, but he's being real now, and I just need him to continue to be real, and we are good, Simu.
That was in that report that you talked about, the Oxfam study, is that 60% of billionaire wealth is now from inheritance, monopoly power, or crony connections. So they did not work for it. This is most of this money is getting born into.
So where's the American dream?
Well, that's always been a bit of horse shit.
Nowhere. It's gone.
Has it ever existed?
There's that.
I would argue
Carlin line.
Yeah, I would argue, especially if you're like a person of color, black, indigenous, brown.
Yeah.
Never here.
I would say there was an
all
American
lie.
dream for a period of decades following World War II for white males in America. It wasn't perfect and all sorts of problems with it. But if you were a white male, you could get a manufacturing job that would allow your kids to go to college. You could afford a house, and you would have a pension and all of those things. And there was the GI Bill where people went to college. So there was a period of some decades where white men in America had a version of the American dream, which was that their kids would be better off than they were. They could have a comfortable retirement, and as long as they were straight or could pretend to be straight. I mean, there was all sorts of holes in it. But that's really all the American dream ever was for one slice of white men for a period of time after World War II.
And at that
now
point,
no one gets it.
The highest tax bracket got taxed at like 90%.
Yeah. It's interesting. I watched this movie the other day called Joe. It's like from the 70s. I think it's actually 1970. And it's about this guy murders it's actually Susan Sarandon's first movie.
Oh, cool.
She's like a drug addict. She has this really shitty boyfriend. Her parents are rich. The dad murders the boyfriend, goes to a bar where there's this like right-wing conservative guy played by, I can't remember his name. Anyways, he's like ranting in the bar about like what's wrong. And it's so funny because this movie came out, like I said, I think it was 1970. And he's saying all the same shit that they say now, only it's just like different wordage. So, he uses like N-word hard R and like other slurs to describe, but he's like, they're getting all the money. They're doing all this. Like, they're the ones getting all the benefits and I have to work my ass off. And like, it was just interesting watching this movie because it's like, it's just like the same tune, just different lyrics, but it's like it's always been this way. It feels like, cause like, he's white conservative and he's bitching about how all these minorities are taking all the opportunities and his kids can't go to college because they're letting in all the smart ones, all the smart brown people. And it's like, it's still the same shit. They've been bitching about the same stuff forever. It's just like, I don't know. It's weirdly how relevant that movie is right now.
Practically hypnotize its victims. A silly grasshopper has no idea of the nature of such a motionless stick-like form before it.
I don't know. I'm still holding out that I'll be one of the first trillionaires in the next 10 years that Oxfam predicts. I'm holding out for it.
I thought it would be my brother who's worked at Costco for 15 years. It's going to be
He just has to work hard. He just has to work hard or inherit it all.
Yeah, I was going to do one piece of good news, which is New York City. We finally got congestion pricing, which is where during rush hour you have to pay more to get into the city. And it's big surprise actually working. It's like half the amount of traffic going in. Air quality is better. There's money for transport. And there's a reason why everywhere in the world where this gets put into place, it gets more and more popular over time because it actually works. It's probably one of the most significant pieces of climate legislation that's actually come through on a local level in America ever. It's incredible. So, of course, I also want to just end on this, which is fuck you, Phil Murphy, who is the Democratic governor of New Jersey, because 2 days after the inauguration, Phil fucking Murphy asked Trump to kill congestion pricing, the most significant climate legislation that's actually been introduced on a local level. So this is some of the bullshit that we're going to have to deal with, which is the Democratic governor deciding he doesn't want to piss off commuters and helping bring the apocalypse. But it's in place and it's working. And it's the kind of sign of some of the things that we can do, which is we can win on local levels and make things that actually make a difference. So that's one of the things that's really given me hope. That's one of the things that's given me hope is that that's in and working, but we're going to have to fight like hell because they're all going to come after it because it's working.
Oh, we can't have nice things.
That was our show, everybody.
It was a good time, and everyone had fun, and everyone's going to have fun.
It was really bright and happy.
Yeah, we're all feeling good about ourselves.
Undeniable.